The scream that shattered the morning air wasn't from fear, it was from rage. Karen Whitmore had built her perfect life behind a white picket fence, terrorizing neighbors with complaints and lawsuits, until the day something ancient and patient decided she'd gone too far. As the serpent's eyes met hers across the chlorinated water, Karen realized that sometimes nature has its own way of delivering justice. What she didn't know was that this snake wasn't just any snake unto person. Who put it there had been watching her every move for months. The infinity pool sparkled like a blue diamond in the Arizona sun, its edge seamlessly blending with the horizon beyond the manicured hills of Paradise Valley. Karen Whitmore adjusted her designer sunglasses and reached for her third mimosa of the morning, the crystal flute catching the light as she surveyed her domain from the floating lounge chair. At 42, Karen had perfected the art of looking 28 through a combination of Botox, personal training, and sheer force of will. Her honey blonde hair fell in perfect waves over her bronzed shoulders, and her white bikini cost more than most people's monthly rent. She was, by all measures, living the American dream. The dream, however, required constant maintenance. "Miguel," she called out, her voice cutting through the desert silence like a blade. "Miguel, get over here now!" The landscaper appeared. From behind a cluster of barrel cacti, his weathered hands still clutching a pair of pruning shears. At 60, Miguel Vasquez had worked for the wealthy residents of Paradise Valley for over 2 decades, but Karen Whitmore tested even his considerable patience. "Yes, Mrs. Whitmore." His accent was thick, respectful, tired. Karen didn't bother looking at him as she spoke. "The hedge between my property and the Rodriguez place is exactly 3 inches higher on their side." 3 inches? Do you understand what that means? Miguel wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. "Mrs. Whitmore, the Rodriguezes, they are good people." "Maybe we can." "I don't care if they're saints," Karen snapped, finally turning to fix him with a stare that could freeze hell. "The Homeowners Association has very specific rules about hedge heights. 24 inches maximum is 27 inches. That's a violation, and I won't tolerate it. But Senora, 3 inches. It's nothing. Nothing." Karen's voice rose to a dangerous pitch. "Miguel, let me explain something to you. This neighborhood has standards, property values. When people like the Rodriguezes move in and start thinking they can ignore the rules, it affects everyone. It affects me." She swung her legs over the side of the lounge chair, her movements sharp and predatory. "Now you have 2 choices. Can go trim their hedge to the proper height, or I can call the HOA and have them fined." Again, Miguel's shoulders sagged. He knew about the fines. Karen had already cost the Rodriguez family over $3,000 in HOA violations for infractions as minor as leaving their garbage bins out 15 minutes past pickup time and planting flowers that were supposedly the wrong shade of red. "I will speak to them," he said quietly. "No speaking. Trimming, today." Karen settled back into her chair and dismissed him with a wave. "And Miguel, when you're done with that, the pool needs to be vacuumed again. There's a leaf floating near the deep end." As Miguel trudged away, Karen smiled with satisfaction and closed her eyes, letting the sun warm her perfectly contoured face. This was how the world was supposed to work. People in their proper places, rules followed to the letter, and Karen Whitmore at the center of it all, maintaining order through the sheer force of her will. Her phone buzzed with a text message. Karen glanced at the screen, and her smile widened. It was from Cheryl Patterson, president of the Paradise Valley Homeowners Association and Karen's closest ally in the ongoing battle for neighborhood perfection. "Board meeting tonight. The Santos issue is on the agenda. Bring documentation." The Santos issue. Karen's smile turned predatory. Alina Santos was a 17-year-old widow who lived in the modest ranch house at the end of Saguaro Drive. For the past 6 months, Karen had been building a case against her, documenting every minor violation, every blade of grass that grew a millimeter too high, every flower that bloomed in a color not explicitly approved by the HOA guidelines. The old woman's real crime wasn't aesthetic, it was economic. Alina Santos lived in a house worth $500,000 less than the surrounding properties. A reminder that Paradise Valley hadn't always been the exclusive enclave it was today. Karen intended to fix that problem. She pulled up her photo gallery, scrolling through dozens of pictures she'd taken while jogging past Elena's house. A garden hose left coiled on the driveway, a package left on the doorstep for 3 hours, a crack in the sidewalk that was technically Elena's responsibility to repair. Perfect, Karen murmured to herself. Each photo was time-stamped and geotagged. Each violation was documented with the precision of a legal brief. By the time she was done, Elena Santos would be buried under so many fines and fees that she'd have no choice but to sell. The house would sell to a developer who would tear it down and build something appropriate. Something that fit Karen's vision of what Paradise Valley should be. Her reverie was interrupted by the sound of children's laughter from next door. Karen's jaw tightened as she recognized the voices, the Rodriguez children, playing in their backyard. Again, she checked her phone. 10:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Shouldn't they be in school? She muttered, already composing another complaint in her head. Truancy was a serious matter. Children playing outside during school hours was clearly a sign of parental negligence. The laughter grew louder, and Karen could hear splashing. They were using their pool. During quiet hours, which the HOA had designated as 7 a.m. to noon on weekdays to preserve the peaceful atmosphere of the neighborhood. Karen reached for her phone to start recording, but then she heard something else. Adult voices, speaking in rapid Spanish. Maria Rodriguez was outside with the children. Karen's Spanish was limited, but she caught enough to understand. The children were sick, home from school with fevers. Maria was trying to cool them down in the pool. For a brief moment, something almost like sympathy flickered in Karen's chest. She remembered being sick as a child, remembered her own mother's worry and care. Then she remembered property values. Sick children meant germs. Germs meant potential. Contamination. And Maria Rodriguez was probably one of those people who didn't believe in proper medical care, letting her children run around spreading whatever they had to the rest of the neighborhood. Karen started recording. She was so focused on documenting the health code violation that she almost missed the movement in her peripheral vision. Almost a dark shadow passed along the bottom of her pool, too large and too fluid to be a leaf or debris. Karen lowered her phone, frowning. The pool service had been there yesterday. The water was crystal clear. The shadow moved again, undulating near the deep end with a sinuous motion that made Karen's stomach clench with unease. "Miguel!" she called out, but there was no answer. He was probably cowering somewhere, afraid to face her after their earlier conversation. Karen stood up, walked to the edge of the pool, and peered into the water. The chlorine smell was stronger than usual, sharp and chemical. The surface was perfectly still, reflecting the cloudless sky like a mirror. Nothing. She was imagining things. Too much stress from dealing with incompetent neighbors and lazy employees. Maybe she needed a vacation, somewhere exotic, where the staff understood the meaning of service and the locals knew their place. Karen returned to her lounge chair and picked up her mimosa, but the glass was empty. She pressed the call button on the intercom system that connected to the main house. "Rosa, Rosa, bring me another drink." No answer. Karen's irritation spiked. Rosa Delgado had been her housekeeper for 3 years, and while she was generally competent, she had a tendency toward independence that Karen found troubling. Too many of these people thought they could make decisions without consulting her first. Rosa still nothing. With an exasperated sigh, Karen stood and stalked toward the pool house, where she kept a small refrigerator stocked with champagne and orange juice. Her bare feet slapped against the heated stone deck, each step echoing off the surrounding walls like a gunshot. She was halfway to the pool house when she heard it. A splash. Not the gentle lapping of water against the pool's edge, but the sound of something large disturbing the surface. Karen spun around, her heart suddenly hammering against her ribs. The pool was still, empty, perfect, but there were ripples spreading. Out from the deep end, concentric circles that caught the sunlight and threw it back in dancing patterns. "Hello," Karen called out, feeling foolish even as she did it. "Is someone there?" The desert wind whistled through the saguaro cacti that bordered her property, but otherwise, silence. Karen approached the pool's edge again, moving more slowly this time. The water was so clear she could see every tile on the bottom, every drain cover, her breath caught in her throat. There, coiled in the shallow end like a living rope, was a snake. Not just any snake. This thing was massive, easily 6 feet long and thick as her arm. Its scales gleamed like polished obsidian in the underwater light, and its triangular head was raised slightly, as if it were watching her. Karen stumbled backward. Karen's scream died in her throat as the snake stopped moving, its head now above the waterline, forked tongue flicking out to taste the chlorinated air. For a moment that stretched like eternity, woman and serpent regarded each other across the blue expanse. Then Karen's survival instincts kicked in. She backed away from the pool's edge, her bare feet slipping on the wet stone. Her phone clattered to the ground as she windmilled her arms for balance. Designer bikini providing no protection against the terror that crawled up her spine like ice water. Help! She screamed toward the main house. Rosa! Somebody help me! The snake's head turned to follow her voice, and Karen could have sworn she saw intelligence in those dark, unblinking eyes. It wasn't the vacant stare of a wild animal driven by instinct. This was different. This was personal. The French doors leading to her bedroom remained closed. No one was coming. Karen fumbled for her phone, hands shaking as she tried to unlock the screen. The snake began moving again, gliding through the water with impossible grace, its black coils rippling just beneath the surface. It was heading for the pool steps, the same steps Karen would need to use if she wanted to escape too. The house. 911, she whispered, her voice cracking. Come on, hello, Karen? The voice came from behind her, soft and cultured, with just a hint of an accent she couldn't place. Karen spun around, nearly dropping her phone again. A woman stood in the shadow of the pool house, having appeared as silently as smoke. She was perhaps 35, with olive skin and dark hair pulled back in a severe bun. Her clothes were simple black jeans, a white cotton shirt, but there was something about her bearing that suggested coiled power. She held a leather satchel in one hand. Who are you? Karen demanded, trying to inject her usual authority into her voice. This is private property. You're trespassing. The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. My name is Dr. Sophia Reyes. I'm a herpetologist. A what? I study snakes. Sophia's gaze flicked to the pool, where the serpent had reached the steps and was beginning to emerge from the water. Beautiful specimen, isn't it? Crotalus atrox, western diamondback rattlesnake. Though this one is ... special. Karen's blood turned to ice water. Did you put that thing in my pool? Put it there. Sophia tilted her head, genuinely puzzled. Karen, why would I put a snake in your pool? Animal cruelty, endangerment, all sorts of crimes. The snake was fully out of the water now, its massive body coiled on the stone deck. Karen could see the diamond pattern along its back, the way its scales caught and held the sunlight. Most terrifying of all, she could hear it now a low, continuous rattle that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. Then why is it here? Karen's voice rose to a near shriek. Why won't it leave? Well, Sophia said thoughtfully, snakes are surprisingly intelligent creatures. They remember things, hold grudges. And this particular snake, let's just say it has excellent reason to remember you. Karen's mind raced. I don't understand. I don't even like snakes. I've never hurt one, haven't you? Sophia reached into her satchel and pulled out a manila folder. Let me refresh your memory. March 15th, 2023. You filed a complaint with the city about Elena Santos keeping dangerous reptiles on her property. Do you remember that? The blood drained from Karen's face. That's not. The complaint was very detailed, Sophia continued, opening the folder. You claimed Mrs. Santos was operating an illegal zoo, harboring venomous snakes, creating a public health hazard. Very serious accusations. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She did remember. Elena Santos had been keeping some kind of lizards in her backyard, desert iguanas, maybe, or chuckwallas. Harmless things, but Karen had needed ammunition for her campaign to force the old woman out of the neighborhood. Those weren't snakes, Karen whispered. No, there weren't, but your complaint triggered a visit from animal control. And unfortunately, Mrs. Santos was also providing sanctuary for injured wildlife, including this beautiful lady here. Sophia gestured toward the rattlesnake, which had begun moving toward them with deliberate, purposeful strokes. Its rattle never stopped, a sound like autumn leaves in a death wind. Her name is Xochitl. She'd been hit by a car on the highway. Broken ribs, internal injuries. Mrs. Santos found her and nursed her back to health. It took months of careful treatment, specialized veterinary care. The old woman spent thousands of dollars she didn't have. Karen backed away as the snake drew closer, but there was nowhere to go. The pool was behind her, the house was too far away, and Sophia blocked the path to the gate. That's very touching," Karen stammered. "But I don't see what this has to do with when animal control came to investigate your complaint," Sophia continued, her voice never changing tone. "They confiscated all the animals, including Xochitl. Mrs. Santos begged them to be careful, explained that the snake was still recovering, but they didn't listen. That Karen could see the intricate pattern of its scales, the way its pupils contracted in the bright sunlight. Its tongue flicked out constantly, tasting her fear. During the transport to the city facility, Sophia said something went wrong. The cage wasn't properly secured. Xochitl was thrown around like a rag doll. Veterinarian, it was too late. The internal injuries had reopened. She died in agony, surrounded by strangers, while the woman who'd saved her life sat in a holding cell charged with operating an illegal menagerie, sank to her knees on the hot stone, her perfect tan suddenly white. You can't prove that but I can." Sophia pulled out a stack of photographs. "These are from your social media accounts. Here you are celebrating when the charges against Mrs. Santos were filed. Here's your post about cleaning up the neighborhood, and here this is my favorite here's your comment about how some people need to learn their place." The photos fluttered to the ground around Karen like leaves. Her own face stared back at her from a dozen different angles, smiling, triumphant, cruel. "Mrs. Santos had a heart attack 2 weeks after the hearing," Sophia continued. "The stress, the legal fees, the loss of her animals, it was too much. She died alone in her hospital bed while you were posting pictures of your new pool furniture." The snake had stopped moving. It was coiled less than 3 feet from Karen now, its wedge-shaped head raised, its rattle creating a sound like static. Electricity. Karen could see her own reflection multiplied in its black eyes. "This is insane," Karen whispered. "You're talking about a snake, like it understands." "Understands?" Sophia laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Karen, you have no idea what Xochitl understands, what she's learned, what she's become." Karen looked up sharply. "What do you mean, become?" Sophia knelt down next to the snake, extending her hand. The massive rattler flowed onto her arm like liquid shadow, its coils wrapping around her shoulders. It should have been terrifying, but the snake seemed almost peaceful. "Death changes things," Sophia said softly, stroking the snake's head with one finger. "Especially when that death is unjust. Especially when it's caused by cruelty and greed. Some spirits don't rest quietly." "You're crazy." Karen tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't support her. "Snakes don't. They don't come back from the dead." "That's impossible, is it?" Sophia stood, the snake still draped around her shoulders like a living necklace. "Tell me, Karen, what do you know about Aztec mythology? About Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, about the belief that some snakes are messengers from the world of the dead?" Karen's voice came out as a croak. "Nothing. I don't know anything about that. Elena Santos did. Her grandmother was curandera, healer. She taught Elena the old ways, the old stories, to help their spirits find peace." Sophia's smile was terrible, but some spirits don't want peace. Some want justice. The snake's head turned toward Karen, and she could swear she saw recognition there. Not the cold recognition of a predator sizing up prey, but something far more complex, something that looked almost like satisfaction. "Head," Karen said desperately. "You're trying to scare me because I filed a complaint." "Well, congratulations. You scared me. Now take your snake and get off my property before I call the police." Sophia tilted her head. "The police? That's interesting. Tell me, have you tried calling anyone today?" Karen frowned. "What do you mean your housekeeper? Rosa, where is she?" Now that Sophia mentioned it, Karen realized she hadn't seen Rosa. All morning, the woman was usually bustling around the house by 8 a.m., preparing Karen's breakfast, organizing her schedule. But the house had been silent. She must be running errands. On a Tuesday morning? Ours. Sophia shook her head. "I don't think so." Rosa received a very interesting phone call last night about her immigration status. Someone had filed a complaint with ICE, claiming she was working illegally. Karen's heart skipped a beat. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course. You do. You filed the complaint yourself, didn't you? Rosa asked for a raise, and you decided to remind her who held the power in your relationship. The accusation hit home because it was The strike never came. Instead, Xochitel's mouth closed, and she settled back against Sophia's shoulder with what looked almost like amusement. The other snakes remained motionless, their collective gaze fixed on Karen like a tribunal of ancient judges. Disappointed, Sophia asked, noting Karen's confusion. Did you think this was going to be simple? Quick, that you'd just disappear, and that would be justice? Karen's voice came out as a whisper. What do you want from me? I want you to understand. Sophia walked to the edge of the pool and sat down, dangling her bare feet in the water. Xochitl uncoiled from her shoulders and slithered down to rest in her lap. Death is easy, Karen. It's living with the consequences of your actions that's hard. As if summoned by her words, Karen's phone began to ring. The screen showed a number she didn't recognize, but the area code was local. Sophia nodded toward the device. Answer it. I'm not answer it. The command carried an authority that made Karen's hand move without conscious thought. She swiped to accept the call. Hello, Mrs. Whitmore. The voice was young, female, uncertain. This is Jessica Martinez from Channel 7 News. We're doing a story about predatory HOA practices. And your name has come up several times. Would you be available for an interview? Karen's blood turned to ice. I don't know what you're talking about. We have documentation showing you've filed over 40 complaints in the past 2 years, resulting in more than $50,000 in fines against your neighbors. We'd like to get your side of the story. The phone slipped from Karen's nerveless fingers, clattering on the stone deck. Through the speaker, she could hear the reporter still talking, mentioning Elena Santos, the Rodriguez family, a pattern of harassment targeting minorities and elderly residents. Sophia picked up the phone and ended the call. That was just the beginning, she said conversationally. Local news, unfortunately, has limited reach. But social media, that's different. She pulled out her own phone and showed Karen the screen. It was Twitter, and Karen's name was trending. Not her full name, just hashtag Karen of Paradise Valley. The hashtag was attached to dozens of posts, each one more damning than the last. Screenshots of her social media posts, Ring doorbell footage of her measuring neighbors' hedges with a ruler, a video of her berating Miguel in front of his granddaughter, photo after photo of her documenting violations, always taken from public property, always legal, always absolutely, devastating when viewed together. How? Karen's voice cracked. How did you get these? I didn't get them, Sophia replied. Your neighbors got them. Turns out, when you spend years terrorizing people, they start documenting right back. Maria Rodriguez has been filming you for months. The Hendersons installed a security camera specifically to catch you trespassing in their yard. Even sweet old Mr. Chen has a folder on his computer labeled evidence. Karen scrolled through the posts with growing horror. Her face appeared again and again, sneering, shouting, pointing accusingly at minor infractions. In one video, she was screaming at a delivery driver for parking in front of her house for 3 minutes. In another, she was calling the police on a group of teenage girls for walking too slowly past her property. They've been sharing these in a private group chat for over a year, Sophia continued, waiting for the right moment. Documenting everything. Building a case. A case for what? For this? Sophia gestured to the phone. Every major news outlet in Phoenix has picked up the story. The Homeowners Association is already getting calls from reporters. Your real estate agent is probably fielding interview requests. Karen's stomach dropped. What about my job? Let's find out. Sophia dialed a number and put the phone on speaker. After 2 rings, a familiar voice answered, Whitmore Residence, Cheryl. Karen's voice came out as a squeak. Is that you? There was a long pause when Cheryl Patterson, president of the Paradise Valley HOA and Karen's closest ally, finally spoke. Her tone was arctic. Karen, I was wondering when you'd call. I don't understand what's happening. People are saying things about me, making accusations. Are they accusations if they're true? Cheryl's voice carried the weight of 20 years of friendship. Too disgust, I've been getting calls all morning. Reporters, lawyers, board members. Do you have any idea what you've done to this community? I was protecting property values. I was maintaining standards. You were systematically harassing anyone who didn't look like you or couldn't afford to fight back. Cheryl's voice rose. I've seen the videos, Karen. I've seen the documentation. My God, what you did to Alina Santos. Alina Santos was violating Alina. Santos was a 70-year-old woman who spent her pension money saving injured animals, and you destroyed her because she didn't fit your idea of who belonged here. The line crackled with silence. When Cheryl spoke again, her voice was quietly devastating. The board met in emergency session an hour ago. You're being removed from all committees, effective immediately. We're also exploring legal action, too. Distance the HOA from your behavior. You can't do that. I'm the vice president. I've been on this board for 5 years. You were the vice president. Past tense, goodbye, Karen. The line went dead. Karen stared at the phone in shock, then looked up at Sophia. This is all you're doing. You orchestrated this. You're destroying my life. I'm not destroying anything, Sophia replied calmly. I'm simply allowing the truth to come to light. Everything in those videos, every post, every complaint, you did that. I'm just making sure people see it. Karen's phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed her own office number. Don't answer it, she whispered. Answer it, Sophia said. Karen's hand moved without her permission. The voice belonged to Richard Steinberg, CEO of the charitable foundation, where Karen served on the board of directors. We need to talk. Richard, whatever you've heard, I've heard enough. The foundation can't be associated with this kind of behavior. I'm sorry, Karen, but we're going to have to ask for your resignation from the board. You can't be serious. I've raised millions for you. I've been your most dedicated volunteer. You've been a liability we didn't recognize until now. Other charities have already made their decisions. Phoenix Children's Hospital, the Arts Foundation, the Literacy Council there, all cutting ties. Effective immediately. Another line went dead. Another piece of Karen's carefully constructed identity crumbled to dust. This isn't justice, Karen said, her voice hollow. This is vindictive, cruel. Sophia stood up, Xochitl flowing back onto her shoulders. Is it? Tell me. When Alina Santos was facing bankruptcy because of your complaints, did you feel compassion? When Rosa was sitting in a detention cell because of your false report, did you think about her children waiting for her to come home? That's different. You were what? Following rules, protecting your investment. Sophia's laugh was bitter. You were feeding your own sense of superiority by destroying people who couldn't fight back. And now you're experiencing what they experienced, the feeling of powerlessness, of having your life dismantled by forces beyond your control. Karen looked around desperately. The snakes were still there, still watching, but now she noticed something she'd missed before. They weren't just arranged randomly. They formed a perfect circle around her, like the spokes of a wheel with her. At the center, what happens now? She asked. Now you choose, Sophia replied. You can continue to be the person you've always been, bitter, vindictive, convinced that the world owes you something. You can fight this, hire lawyers, claim you're the victim of a conspiracy, or you can do something you've never done before in your entire life. Sophia's voice softened. You can take responsibility for the harm you've caused. You can apologize. You can try to make amends. Karen stared at her. You think an apology is going to fix this? You think saying sorry will bring back Alina Santos? Or undo the damage? No, Sophia admitted. Nothing will bring Alina back. Nothing will erase the trauma you've caused, but it's a start. A start toward what? Toward becoming human again. Karen's phone buzzed with a text message. She looked down and saw it was from Miguel, the landscaper. Mrs. Whitmore, I am sorry, but I cannot work for you anymore. My family needs me to find employment with people who treat me with respect. I will pray for you. Even in his resignation, the man was showing her more grace than she deserved. He's been supporting his elderly mother and putting his granddaughter through college with the money you paid him, Sophia said, reading over her shoulder. Now he'll have to find new clients. Explain why he left his most lucrative account. I didn't know about his family. You never asked. In 3 years, you never once asked Miguel about his life, his family, his dreams. To you, he was just a tool, a means to an end. Karen's phone continued buzzing. Text after text, email after email. Her hairdresser canceling her standing appointment, her personal trainer ending their contract, her country club requesting she consider voluntary resignation from membership. One by one, The pillars of her perfect life were crumbling, but the worst was yet to come. The phone rang one final time, and Karen saw a number that made her blood freeze. Her ex-husband, David. She answered without being told. "Karen," David's voice was tight with controlled anger. "I just got off the phone with